My name is Jackson. When I came to my mother-in-law's house to pick up my kids and wife, what I overheard while walking past the window changed everything I believed about my marriage. By the time they found out that I knew their plans, it was late. Here is how everything happened. I've been married to my wife, Ariana, for 10 years now. We have 2 boys together. One is 7, the other just turned 5, and I love them more than anything else in this world. Being a dad has changed me in ways I didn't expect. My boys are the center of my world, and everything I do with them in mind. Now, when Ariana and I first got married, I truly believed I had found my person. We had our differences, like every couple, but there was love. Things were good for the most part. But things changed. After the birth of our second son, I started noticing a difference in Ariana. She wasn't the same woman I married. She started pulling away, both physically, emotionally, and even mentally. I tell myself it was just exhaustion. Having 2 boys is no joke. It can wear anyone down. Back then, I was also working a lot, sometimes 2 jobs, picking up extra shifts on weekends, staying late whenever the office needed me. I barely had time to catch my breath. Providing for my family was the priority. I didn't want to press Ariana too hard or make her feel guilty. I thought if I just gave her space, helped out where I could, and kept being dependable, she'd come back around. So, I swallowed the loneliness. I ignored how she avoided talking unless it was about the kids or something practical. I convinced myself that motherhood was hard. But the truth? I was struggling too. I just didn't feel like I had the right to say it out loud. I didn't know then that this emotional distance wasn't temporary. That it wasn't just postpartum exhaustion or the stress of parenting. I didn't know it was the beginning of something deeper and calculated. When I look back now, the signs were always there. It started with her mother. Ariana's mom never liked me. From the very beginning, she made it clear I wasn't the man she had in mind for her daughter. She didn't shout it or say it outright, but it was in the way she looked and talked to me. Every time I visited, it felt like walking into a silent job interview where I was already failing. She had a way of dropping little comments that felt like paper cuts. Must be nice to have a job where you don't have to dress up. Or, Ariana could have been anything. Remember when she wanted to go into law? She never saw me as enough. Definitely not worthy of her daughter. In her eyes, I was the guy who knocked her daughter up and dragged her into a paycheck-to-paycheck kind of life. But Ariana was the one who chose this. She said she wanted the family, the simple things. Ariana's behavior changed when the weekend visits to her mom started. At first, it sounded reasonable. She said she needed help with the boys. Her mom could lend a hand, and she could catch her breath. We only had 1 car, so I'd drive them there Friday evenings and pick them up Sunday afternoons. I never complained, but it became a pattern. Every weekend, like clockwork, she was packing up the kids and heading over. I'd clean the house, try to cook something special, try to make her feel loved when she came back. But she'd return even more distant than before. I didn't push her. What I didn't realize back then was that the woman who had always thought I wasn't good enough was finally getting in my wife's ear in a way I couldn't undo. On one regular Sunday, I had the house to myself that morning, so I decided to put in some effort and surprise Ariana when she got back. I cleaned the kitchen top to bottom. I fluffed the couch pillows, folded the laundry, and made the boys' beds. I thought if I showed her how much I still cared, it would help bridge whatever distance had grown between us. As a final touch, I picked up her favorite takeout from that Thai place she likes, just the way she orders it. I was hoping we'd sit down, share dinner, and feel a little more like a team again. When it was time to pick them up from her mom's place, I grabbed the key and headed out. As I pulled up in front of the house, I parked, turned off the car, and started walking toward the door. The window to the living room was open, and as I stepped closer to the front door, I caught my mother-in-law's voice first talking to my wife. "You've got him wrapped around your finger," she said. "Men like him are easy." I stopped. Then Ariana replied, "I know. I just need him to keep supporting everything until I can sort things out. Then I'll tell him it's over." I was shocked. Her mom didn't even hesitate. "Good. You don't owe him anything. You gave him kids. It's time to live for yourself. He's just a stepping stone." Ariana chuckled and said, "He'll be crushed, but he'll get over it. I can't explain how it felt inside of me. I turned around and slowly walked back to the car. I had to sit down. I just sat there, trying to keep it together, while everything inside me was falling apart. You go through life believing that love is this partnership. That even when it's rough, you're both still fighting for each other. But hearing those words, it was like someone took everything I thought I knew and lit it on fire. Was it all fake? Did she ever actually love me? Or was I just a provider until she figured out her next move? A part of me wanted to storm in there, confront them both, or something. But as I sat in that car, I came to terms with reality. If I lost my temper and made a scene, they could twist that against me. I already knew how the system worked, and if Ariana really was planning to leave, I'd be the one out in the cold. No house, no kids, no fair shot. She could paint me as the unstable one, and I'd have nothing to prove otherwise. So I made a decision right then. I wiped my face, took a deep breath, and got out of the car like I hadn't heard a damn thing. Walked up to the house with the food in hand, smiled like always, and greeted them like nothing was wrong. I didn't do it because I was weak. I did it because I needed time. Because if they were plotting behind my back, then I needed to start thinking 10 steps ahead. And that was the moment everything changed for me. After that day, at my mother-in-law's window, I started thinking ahead. A few days later, I reached out and booked a consultation with a family attorney. I didn't tell anyone. I needed to know what I was up against and how to protect myself and my kids if what I heard turned into action. When I sat down with the attorney, he listened carefully and then laid out a clear, strategic plan. He told me not to move out of the family home under any circumstances, unless ordered to by the court. Leaving the home would make it look like I abandoned my family, and that could be used against me. He also stressed that I should never badmouth Ariana in front of our kids, no matter how angry or betrayed I felt. The goal, he said, was to stay grounded, calm, and involved. He told me to be consistent, make sure I'm showing up at school, staying involved with their doctors, going to their sports events, and helping with homework. Judges look at who the stable parent is, and from that day forward, that was going to be me. I knew I had to make major changes in my daily life. I used to work long shifts, and I'd come home too tired to even ask about my kids' day. That had to stop. I started turning down overtime. Instead of spending weekends alone or working, I began taking the boys out camping if they were with me. We built fires, told stories under the stars, and spent time. I was showing them they could count on me. I made sure I was the one driving them to school each morning. I met their teachers. I introduced myself to their doctors. I wanted everyone who mattered in my kids' lives to know that I wasn't just some background parent. I was there. Emotionally, I also shifted gears. Before, I kept trying to figure Ariana out, but after what I heard at her mother's house, I stopped wasting energy on that. I knew where she stood. So instead, I gave that energy to my boys. I didn't try to fix Ariana anymore. I didn't beg her for affection or try to understand her mood swings. I let her spiral on her own while I stayed focused. At the same time, I began keeping records. I started recording Ariana during arguments to protect myself. Whenever she started yelling or complaining or saying something cruel, I had my phone recording nearby. I never raised my voice. I never fought back. I let her dig her own hole. There were times she threatened to make me homeless and take everything. One night, during a heated argument, she even slapped me. That moment was caught on a hidden camera I had installed around the house without her knowing. I realized how much power I had in silence. She thought I was weak because I wasn't fighting, but I was building a case. Financially, I started moving differently too. I used to give Ariana everything, but not anymore. I opened a separate account and started splitting my income. She still got support, enough to keep things stable, so she couldn't claim I was cutting her off. But I also started setting money aside for legal fees, housing, anything I might need if things went south. I was no longer feeding her lifestyle blindly. The attorney had warned me if she filed, she might claim financial abandonment to gain leverage. So I made sure she couldn't. Everything I did with proof. Looking back, That period was the most disciplined I've ever been in my life. I couldn't afford to make mistakes. I had to stay a step ahead while keeping a smile on my face. And I did. I won't lie, when the official divorce papers finally came, I just sat down in silence for a while. Even though I'd seen it coming from the day I overheard her and her mother through that window, part of me still held on to the hope that maybe things wouldn't spiral this far. But it happened. Ariana filed for divorce after years of tension and distance between us. She didn't just file, she came in swinging. The claims she made were that I was abusive, that I'd neglected her and our boys, that I didn't earn enough money, and worse, that I refused to pick up more work to support the family. I wasn't surprised that she was going to try and destroy the image of the father and husband I had worked so hard to be. She was building her case on lies, and I knew that if I didn't stay sharp and keep my emotions in check, I could lose everything. But here's where her plan started to crack. When she accused me of being abusive, I had clear audio clips showing her yelling at me, belittling me, threatening me, even physically hitting me one night in a rage. I never raised a hand. I never yelled back. I kept calm always. I showed the court how I was consistent with the family. And the truth was, I'd scaled back on extra jobs because I wanted to be present in my sons' lives. And I had the proof to back all of that up. In court, her whole narrative started to fall apart. Every time she tried to paint me as unstable or negligent, the evidence told a different story. She started getting desperate, snapping at me in court, trying to provoke me into reacting. She sent text messages baiting me to argue, probably hoping I'd say something she could use against me. But I didn't take the bait. I kept it clean, respectful, and distant. By the end of it all, the judge saw exactly what was going on. I wasn't the angry, unreliable husband she tried to make me out to be. I was a man who had been quietly preparing, putting his kids first while his wife had been planning her escape. The court ruled in my favor. I got 60-40 its custody. My boys would stay with me during the week, and she'd have them on the weekends. It wasn't full custody, but it was enough to give them stability and to make sure I stayed a strong presence in their lives. Ariana got the car, but I kept the family home. There was no alimony awarded. None. The court saw no basis for it, especially since she had started working again just to afford her legal fees during the divorce. Looking back, I don't feel victorious in the way some people might think. It wasn't about revenge or proving something. It was about protecting what mattered most. Didn't win because I fought harder. I won because I stayed calm and planned smart when she was too busy planning her exit. If you followed this story from the beginning, first of all, thank you. This whole thing is about learning who you are when the person you trusted most has plans to use you, break you, and walk away like none of it ever mattered. Looking back, I think the biggest lesson I've taken away from all of this is that silence isn't weakness. Sometimes, staying calm and focused is the loudest way to protect yourself. If I had reacted emotionally the day I stood outside that window and heard what my wife and her mother were saying, I might have lost everything. My kids, my peace, even my home. Instead, I had to swallow that pain, sit with it, and quietly start building a way out. Another thing I learned is, don't ignore the slow changes in a relationship. I should have paid closer attention when she started pulling away after the birth of our last son. I chalked it up to stress or motherhood, or just life being hard. But in truth, she had already started mentally checking out. And I was too overworked and too trusting to see the signs clearly. And lastly, document everything. I'm serious. People will smile in your face while they plan your downfall behind closed doors. Keep records. Keep your focus. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. Show up for your kids. Stay involved. Don't give them fuel to burn you later. That's how I made it through. So let me ask you this. What would you have done in my situation? If you heard your partner making plans to leave you, use you, and take everything with a smile on their face, how would you react? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Trust me, someone out there is going through something similar right now. Your words might help more than you know. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves.